Welcome to Hair of the Werewolf. I'm Chase, and I'm here with Lily, my co-host.
Hello.
And we are a supernatural horror podcast where we tell each other scary stories that are allegedly true and often have a few drinks along the way to make it a little bit more fun. I know Lily right here is having rum and cranberry juice, something I've never heard of before. Everyone knows vodka cranberry, but this is this is spiced rum.
This is spiced rum, so it's not even clear rum.
No, it's not spiced. It's just aged. It's like gold rum. So it's
right.
cruising gold. And is it good?
So it's not bad. I actually think it's fine. I'm not saying it's like my favorite drink or anything. I call it a dirty Cosmo because it's
because it's dirty.
Because it has a strange color to it now.
Ooh, you so dirty. Well,
Basically,
I'll have you know.
Yeah.
That the water I'm drinking out of my purple Donatello flask thing, hydro flask, whatever.
Yeah.
Is amazing.
Well,
it ain't dirty.
It's refreshing.
It's clean. It's good for me.
Straight from Spring Mountain.
So this is the last episode of January. Already. We're already there.
No, I can't believe
1 month down in 2022, and my old brain's still like, it's 2021, y'all.
It's still 2021.
I think I'm holding on to it because we all had this understanding, with the universe that by the end of 2021, everything was going to be fine again, and it's not.
We had a deal.
And it's like, wait, it can't even be 2022 yet. We still haven't finished 2021.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm still going to have a hard time when I sign my checks. And yes, I still write checks. I'm going to hold on to that as long as I can.
Yeah, you're like the oldest millennial I know.
But in terms of current stuff, we have been talking and we're trying, hopefully very soon, to see the brand new Scream movie that just came out.
I know. We definitely wanted to see it a lot earlier, but it hasn't been able to manifest, but hopefully we can get that.
Seeing movies is difficult in general because we try to avoid people. We want to keep as far away from people, so find show times that, like early morning weekdays so all the teenagers are at school, or at least, the responsible ones are. And we can be left alone in our tiny corner of the movie theater wearing our masks, fearing God. But
we'll be on the side.
Yeah, because apparently this new Scream is the big to-do. It's like the sock hop. It's everyone has to do it.
Be there or be square is what I hear.
And we've heard from two different friends, both of whom are horror connoisseurs, that this movie is surprisingly good. So I'm pretty excited. So if we can find time, we'll do it.
It doesn't take a lot to please me, so this might be like the best movie I've ever seen or something.
Well, and we probably will feel that way because it's been forever since we've seen anything horror. I think the last horror thing we watched was Christmas Horror Story, and that was over a month ago.
I know. We've been on a different level right now. Like we've been out of it.
There's a million reasons, but the only thing we've been watching consistently recently is the All Creatures Great and Small on PBS, which is about the most polar opposite of horror as you can get. But it's my quaint little show.
Very wholesome.
It reminds me of when we lived in York and all I want to do is drink tea at the beginning of the episode and then drink beer at the end of the episode.
Oh, yeah. I'd say for me, the new season of SVU has come out. So naturally, that meant I have to start the entire show from the beginning. So I'm going to be watching, I think all 23 seasons. I've been binge watching. So in a way, I have been seeing horrible things. And it is pretty scary. Just more true crime than anything.
And because she knows there's certain things I just don't want to watch in TV. If she's listening to it, I can tell when she plugs in her headphones, it's because it's an episode that's dealing with particularly morose stuff I just don't want to hear.
It's like there's too many dead children in this episode for you, I think. So
the way you are with TV shows is the way I am with movies. Video games, because if a brand new video game in a series is coming out, I'm like, oh, I'm totally going to sit down and play through all of them again. The only difference is you can actually somehow watch 24 hours of SVU. You manage to do it in 5 hours. I don't know how you do it.
I bend time.
Whereas me, even just 3 video games, that's 40 hours of time just to beat them.
And it takes you forever. Yeah, I don't know.
I guess we both have fun, though.
Yeah, maybe.
But anyway, looks like you've got a beefy story for me.
I have many papers in front of me.
Your research went on for ages.
It did. I did it for 2 days straight, and I was working basically nonstop, honestly. This is a big one. And because it's a big one, it will be the only story that we'll be telling today. But don't worry, it's got a lot of amazing, fun, scary facts. So it'll keep you entertained. Don't worry about that.
And my story is put on the back burner until next week.
I think like some point I was doing the research and it was like day 2 when I was doing it. I look over at Chase and I'm like, yeah, I know you're doing research right now, but I don't know if we're going to get to your story. So we'll just save that. I didn't realize I stumbled on such a big story. Anyway.
So perfect. You got to lay it on me. It sounds like it was worth all the time. So
yes. So my story is the Waverly Hills Sanatorium.
Wait a minute. Waverly Hill. Isn't that like a Disney show about like kids?
The Waverly Hills?
Yeah, aren't they like the Wizards of Waverly Hills?
I don't know. I do know there is like a Wizard Waver, I think, something like that. I
never saw it. It was, even when it was my time, I didn't watch the Disney Channel. I didn't have
You didn't have cable, so it didn't matter, yeah.
And the most Disney I've seen recently is my niece every now and then when she spends the night, she's watching like some Disney shows in the morning, and I watch it. I'm like, yeah, I totally missed this whole thing growing up. Yeah,
I mean, the shows are fairly different than when they were before, and I'm not just saying that. They actually have like, people who not, I don't want to say study TV, but they kind of go through the stages of what Disney was doing throughout the time. And the shows that I was watching with my sister, like Lizzie McGuire and Even Stevens, is somewhat different in context. It's more traditional sitcom than what they're doing now with Disney Channel shows. Anyway, totally off the subject. And no, I'm not talking about the Disney Channel show.
Are you sure? So I'm eager to hear about the Disney Channel horror sanitarium.
Yeah,
so go for it.
Let's pretend there's wizards in this for sure. So this place is considered as one of the most haunted places in the world.
Which I think I think we need to make a rule that we're not allowed to say that anymore.
Or I need to start making a list, and there are just hundreds of them now.
Yeah, because you could write a story about like a shack in Mexico, and you're like, it's supposed to be the most haunted shack in the world.
Fine, this is one of the most haunted sanatoriums in the world. How about that?
All right.
So this creepy building can be found in Louisville, Kentucky. And I'll start off with some history because, 1, it's amazing, and 2, it kind of allows us to find out whose fault it was that this place is so haunted. So a long time ago, in 1883, the property was owned by Thomas H. Hayes. The property itself was very isolated from larger towns, and obviously that meant schools and other like things that they would require. So when the daughter was old enough to attend school, he decided to build a school for her. This was actually a really good thing for the area because there were other children living there, sort of, just like in the, distance, but they were in the surrounding region, so they were able to attend school as well. Hayes hired a teacher whose name was Lizzie Lee Harris. She was the only teacher at the school, and so
I'm sorry, I'm still thinking about the Disney stuff, so you said Lizzie, I'm like, Lizzie McGuire was the teacher?
I just didn't even think of that.
Oh, sorry.
It is a made-up story. I'm just infusing a lot of Disney characters in this.
And then came Beans with a plot.
Beans!
All right.
There's no bacon here, so don't worry. So, yes, her name Lizzie Lee Harris, and she was the only teacher, and she basically had full control. She decided to name the school Waverly after the Waverly novels written by Walter Scott. Thomas Hayes thought that the name had a serene sound to it and decided to name the property Waverly Hills. So I just thought that was a really cute, wholesome fact because Mr. Hayes just seemed like a really cool guy. He's like, I have like all this money. Let's just build a damn school. Let's just have this lady, call it whatever.
Little did he know, apparently it was going to become one of the most haunted places ever. It's such quaint beginnings, and then it turns into horror. It's so quaint.
He was like just chilling and vibing. He's like, yeah, Waverly, let's do this. But as you mentioned, this is definitely the last of wholesomeness we'll hear for a long time. Now, the sanatorium. It was sometime in the early 1900s that Kentucky and anywhere else with swampy and hot environments was hit hard with the cases of tuberculosis, aka consumption, aka the White Plague, aka the plague of all plagues, as someone said. So I don't know about you, but whenever I kept typing tuberculosis, I just kept saying tubular in my head. Does anybody else do that? Like, no. I just...
Tubular closis. Reaganomics.
I don't know why. That's all I kept thinking the entire time I was writing this, but okay, never mind.
No, I actually, because I can't spell it well, I always wrote consumption whenever I was discussing it.
You could just say TB as well, you know.
Man, see, now you make me feel stupid that I was writing something so long like that.
Yeah.
I could have given these fingers some rest.
Yeah, those fine fingers of yours.
My bagels.
Oh my God, where are we?
Snap
okay.
your bagels.
Snap your bangles. I'm not even drunk yet. Okay. So let's see. Let me talk about a little bit about the disease. TB is a bacterial infection. You contract it when you breathe in air containing Mycobacterium tuberculosis. It most commonly attacks the lungs, but it can attack any part of the body, including the brain, spine, and kidneys and whatnot.
And another common vector is drinking milk, because cows are great harbingers of tuberculosis. That's one of the things that we get rid of with pasteurization. So unpasteurized milk is a big no-no because you can get TB from it.
Yeah. No milk. No unpasteurized milk, I mean. Anyway, so about 15 to 20% of people who have it spread to other parts of their bodies is usually due to weaker immune systems that's caused by another medical condition like HIV. So it's not as common, but it definitely does happen.
Okay.
Now, the Waverly property was brought out and converted into a hospital. There were facilities located in the city, but the cases were increasing rapidly, and they ultimately decided to transport the patients to a more isolated location. Plus, at the time, they believed that fresh air was a form of treatment for TB. So this was the obvious choice, and as a bonus, it kept people away from other people. So it was basically a quarantine thing.
At the very least, you'd think that whether or not fresh air actually helped you with tuberculosis, it probably limited how often you were infecting other people.
Yeah, exactly. It really...
So it still was a net benefit.
I can see why they would think it was helping, but also it wasn't because of what they thought.
And what's the time frame again? Remind me.
Oh, so this is now the early 1900s. So we're moving into 1910.
So we're still around the time where I guess this was the late 1800s. You know, Doc Holliday of the Tombstone fame.
Oh yes.
He had tuberculosis, and he went out west because at the time they also believed dry climates was good for tuberculosis, so people were moving out west.
Oh yeah. Well, that kind of makes sense.
Though.
No. I mean, so as far as a form of treatment, no, but the West was a lot less contagious, or as far as like harboring this kind of bacteria and growing it, because it wasn't as wet.
Oh, yeah.
So I guess like in a weird way, it was better to move there, but not if you already had it, is what I'm saying.
They may have assumed since there were less people with it out here that they're like, it's so
exactly
wrong conclusion, but good evidence, I guess.
good watching.
All right.
So yeah.
Sorry for the detour. I just whenever I hear tuberculosis, my first thought is just seeing a very sickly looking Val Kilmer. And you know what? For some reason, I really like it.
A very sweaty. Ooh, you like the sweaty Val Kilmer?
No, I don't mean I like it like ooh la la. I mean I'm a huge Val Kilmer fan, and that's his best role. So
listen,
I like it like that.
I used to have a huge crush on Val Kilmer, but I don't know.
Ain't we a pair?
No, no, but I wouldn't say that like in Tombstone he looked particularly attractive
because he looked sickly.
It wasn't the right kind of sweaty. So yeah.
Well, yeah, he looked kind of almost purple because he was so pale.
He was so pale. That's so sad. Oh, I don't know why I'm laughing. Okay, so finally on July 26, 1910, the facility on Waverly Hills was open for business. Originally, the hospital was only 2 stories high and contained an administrative building and 2 open-air facilities. Each open-air facility could hold up to 20 people at a time, and it was mainly reserved for those that were in the early stages of the disease.
Okay.
Yeah. Not surprisingly, the space was not sufficient for the volume of the infected, so by 1912, patients that were overflowing from the city hospital were being transported to Waverly Hills, but at the time, they didn't have the space, so they temporarily placed them in tents outside. Tragically, many of the sanatorium patients were children, and by 1914, there were about 130 patients at any given time. This was a constant rotating number because there were so many people dying quickly. However, this was still not enough, so the construction continued for expansion, and by October 17, 1926, the new building was completed. The building was about 108,000 square feet and was able to house about 500 patients. By this point, the facility was completely self-sufficient. They had a farm to grow food and raise animals. They also had their own water facility and even their own post office. The downside is that if you were a staff member, you were closed off from the rest of the world as well. It was a functioning little town. Entire families lived there. If parents became ill, then the children would go along with them to live on this land, even if they weren't sick.
It's really interesting. If I remember correctly, there's something kind of like that these days with, I want to say it was a leprosy colony.
Leprosy colony,
where people kind of just go there, and sometimes people who don't have leprosy, but they want to be with family, go and live there, but it's kind of like a self-contained town. It's interesting.
Right. Yeah, it's been done before. Some of the treatments that they used for the sick was patients would be exposed to ultraviolet light 24/7. The idea was that it would allow the lungs to be exposed to the UV light as well and kill the bacteria.
Nope, just cancer.
Just cancer, basically. The doctor who created this method, Neil Finson, got a Nobel Prize for it. It did not work. So there was...
But they were overflowing with vitamin D.
But they were like, man, this guy has a lot of vitamin D, and he's looking pretty brown.
They just thought everyone looked better because they had nice, healthy color to their
wow,
skin.
Look at your skin.
You're not so pale.
Yeah.
Like most people dying from TB. You look all bronzed.
Yeah, bronzed. There was also the fresh air exposure treatment that I mentioned earlier. On the surface, this seemed like a lovely idea because you're like, yeah, I'll get some fresh air in the countryside. But no, it was actually a lot more torturous because the patients would be left outside every day, no matter the weather. The treatment required constant fresh air or else it wouldn't work. Spoiler, it didn't work anyway.
They were these like, you remember that one time you went into the bathroom for 3 minutes? That's why you're dying.
That's why you died. You didn't do what I said to do, obviously.
Convenient doctor excuses.
You can actually look up pictures online and you can see people lying in beds and there's like rain and they're just, what the fuck, miserable. It sucks. Like, I'm sure this is worth it. Anyway, they were using electroshock therapy as well. This one was kind of strange to me because I guess it was their go-to treatment for everything at the time.
I was going to be like, I'm pretty sure they used it for everything. They're like, oh, you got a wart on your foot? Let's shock his brain.
You're like... Could you imagine at the time, you're like, damn, is that gangrene? That's all right. I'd rather not get shocked.
I got the vapors. Electrocute her.
Oh my God, it's so true though. Oh, but I guess I can kind of see, because I think as I was reading on, it was mostly for those that were having symptoms of tuberculosis in the brain. So maybe they only used it for those patients.
Totally.
They also used what was called collapse therapy, which is when they would intentionally collapse the lung and then try to expand it again. The intent was to restart the lung. So it was basically the have you tried turning it on and off again method.
Wow.
So weird. They would also inject things like methanol, olive oil, and dyes directly into the windpipe. I have no idea why they did this. I don't think I read anywhere that it was like, oh, they thought it would help. I don't know. I don't even know what
you said
reasoning.
Methanol and ethanol?
Oh, no, sorry. Did I say that? I meant menthol.
Menthol.
Yeah.
When it stops people from coughing a lot, menthol can help that.
Yeah, but they would inject it into the windpipe.
That's really gross.
Yeah, it was kind of weird. Anyway. These were just some of my favorite treatments that I read about. And when I say favorite, I mean I cannot get them out of my head. It's estimated that around 60,000 people died while they were at the hospital. And if you go online, that's usually the number you will see. However, it seems that the death toll was closer to 8,000.
Damn.
Yeah. So this was by some historians that were actually looking through the records. They're like, I don't know where 60,000 came from. Maybe it's that sensationalization of kind of trying to make it more haunted. You know, there were like 60,000 deaths, but the historians are like, no, you know, any given year, it was less than 150 deaths a year. So they had no idea where they got that number. But anyway, even so, that would estimate about 1 death every 2 to 3 days, which in my opinion is still quite a bit. Now, because there was such a high volume of deaths, there had to be a way to transport the bodies effectively and discreetly as possible. So they used the underground tunnel to transport the dead bodies.
Okay, this is not even the first time we've talked about an underground tunnel. I swear, unless I saw it in a show, there was a time we talked about another underground tunnel that was for moving dead bodies. And I'm like, you know what?
Okay, so we did see a show. It was...
Oh, it was a show?
Yeah, it was BuzzFeed Unsolved, and the guys, Shane and Ryan, they went to the Waverly Hills Sanatorium.
Oh, so this is it.
This is it.
And it's the one where there's a huge ramp, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
so
okay.
it's very steep.
All right. So I do know a little bit about this, and it's horrifying. So great. Hey, everyone, get ready. This is a wild ride.
Oh, yeah.
And here we go.
Here we go. So yes, let's get ready for this tunnel, which, by the way, they often nicknamed it the body chute or the death tunnel. So for obvious reasons. Now the tunnel itself, like Chase mentioned, it is actually terrifying looking. And since the hospital was located on the hill, that's why it has such a steep incline. The tunnel is about 500 feet long, so it is quite a bit of a journey each time. If you face down the tunnel, on one side it's stairs, and then the other side is a ramp, which obviously made it easy to roll the bodies out. I think they also used it for other transports,
Out? I think they rolled them down.
Down and out.
This thing was a body slide.
Good Lord. Do you think they just really let them loose and they're like, bye?
At least one nurse is like...
It's like, I'm over it.
Exactly. And I cannot convey to you how terrifying this tunnel looks.
It was
when I saw it on the show, I was like,
yeah.
No, it was awful.
Yeah. If you're claustrophobic, I probably would advise against going there, but, you do whatever you want. I would actually go down there, but I would have to bring someone with me. And preferably someone that won't scream or run faster than me.
So not me.
So not you. Wait, I could run faster than you.
Yeah, but I scream.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
I figured if you missed one of them, I was out. I didn't mean like my athletic body could outrun you because it's not happening.
I mean, you can probably run longer than me, but I think you can run faster.
I think I would just scream like SpongeBob and not move.
Just kidding. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
I won't torture you guys with that. Anyway. Fortunately, by 1943, an antibiotic called streptomycin was developed that helped fight against TB. Over time, Waverly Hills Sanatorium was admitting less and less patients until finally it closed in 1961. So that is the end of one of the more horror parts of the history. It then became a hospital for the elderly for the following year in 1962, but that was closed down 20 years later in 1982 because the hospital was understaffed, overcrowded, and the patients were being neglected and abused. So, I mean, even it wasn't a long time it was open. 20 years still quite a bit, though.
20 years is massive. That's more than half of our life.
And especially if you're elderly, the 20 years might have been all the years left. You know what I mean? So that's sad. I guess just
definitely
adding...
would have been the worst episode of the Golden Girls I've ever seen.
Yeah. Good Lord.
The Golden Girls at Waverly Hills.
Oh, no. Yeah, that would have been a really good twist. It was all in... Well, what's her name? The saucy one?
I remember seeing it a few times when I was a kid.
Why don't I say Berta? But it sounds weird. Maybe it's... I don't know. I never watched...
like Madge and...
Yeah. Anyway, I was just thinking like it was all in her head, and she was actually just at the sanatorium.
She was high as a kite.
Yeah, just strapped to a bed. Anyway, a year after, in 1983, the building was purchased for over $3 million with the intent of converting it into a minimum security prison, but the town objected and the project was dropped. The building remained abandoned for...
did they object because they didn't want a prison near them? Or
that's why. They didn't want a prison. Yeah.
I don't blame them. If someone's like, hey, I'd like to buy this old building, turn it into a prison, I'm like, can you not?
Yeah. I live right across the street. Please don't.
Put it elsewhere.
Yeah. So even because it was dropped, they didn't know what to do with it, and so it was abandoned for a couple of years. And at that time, there were a lot of homeless people kind of walking in and out. There was vandalism. People were graffitiing, and... because of its dark history, people, of course, would perform satanic rituals or other devil-worshipping type ceremonies that a lot of people believe contribute to the high and aggressive activity we see today. Yes.
Let's be fair. I'd rather the Satan worshippers do that stuff in old abandoned buildings as opposed to, like, in the basement of an apartment complex.
Yeah,
so.
like, not in my... neighborhood, but sure, go out in the
to be fair,
wilderness.
I prefer they never did it, but if they're gonna do it, like, at least they're picking the right place.
Don't, but if you're going to, yeah.
This is where you do it.
Yeah, just get the hell away from me. In 1996, Robert Alberhasky bought the building because he wanted to build a giant statue of Jesus and place it on top of the building.
Okay.
So it sounds really random, and it is. He was inspired by the Christ the Redeemer in Rio de Janeiro.
Bucket list, gotta see that thing.
Yeah, exactly. But he wanted the statue to be even taller.
Okay.
The one in Brazil is 125 feet, that's 38 meters, tall if you include the pedestal. The one Alberhasky wanted to build would have been 150 feet, which is 46 meters. To accomplish this project, he needed to raise at least $4 million, but he was also planning on using that money to build a church and a rec center. However, in 1 year, he was only able to raise $3,000. I don't think a lot of people had his vision, is what I'm hearing.
I'm okay with people not having that vision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was I don't know. For me, that was so weird.
It's like, oh, so you decided to build Jesus here. What's the significance? What's sacred about this place? Nothing. It was
giant
a TV
Jesus.
ward, and there were satanic rituals here.
So we have to put a giant Jesus to counteract. What do you think? So after Alberhasky's dream of giant Jesus has died, he sold the building to Tina and Charlie Mattingly in 2001. The couple wanted to embrace the building for what it was, and since 2001, they had been giving ghost tours, historical tours, and host a haunted house attraction every Halloween.
Oh, that's awesome.
It is awesome. I really want to go there one day. Because of these tours, it allowed me and other people who are super obsessed with the paranormal to get a lot of material. So now we have a lot of people going there all the time for the specific purpose of communicating with the dead.
Nice.
Yeah. So here's some of the hauntings. Oh, and in case anyone was wondering, yes, every single paranormal ghost hunting show that you can think of has been to Waverly Hills Sanatorium. I would have watched every single episode if I could.
Oh man, if this was a drinking game episode, that would mean we'd have to take like 8 shots.
Yeah. For each show.
Yeah.
We'd be dead. I don't think there's enough liquor.
And then there would be ghost tours at our grave.
They're like, this ghost keeps trying to get me to take shots. I don't get it.
Can ghosts get drunk? What?
So, yeah, so you can go see those shows, and if you happen to have one of the streaming services, go for it. Anyway, so that means I had to rely solely on articles, personal accounts, and any YouTube channel that was willing to share that information, which, as I said earlier, that means the BuzzFeed Unsolved with Ryan and Shane, and obviously they did a really fun and cool little thing, and I'll talk about that in a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, here I'm going to talk about the haunted hotspots, and then I'll talk about like just other common things that occur there.
Totally.
So, on the 3rd floor, a homeless man and his dog who were living in the building accidentally fell into the elevator shaft and died. Since then, people have seen a tall man and his dog inside the building. The current owner, Tina Mattingly, gave her experience with the ghost. She said that during the tour, she was walking down the 3rd floor hallway, and she noticed a tall, thin man with long white hair standing in the middle of the hallway. She immediately clicked on her flashlight.
Why wasn't it on?
Oh my god, thank you. I was about to say, I have no idea why it wasn't on already.
This isn't a video game. It doesn't run out of power in 10 seconds.
Right, like you can have multiple flashlights if you like.
I already think her story is dumb.
Yeah, that was like mistake number 1, I think. That's a rookie mistake. So she
could have tripped on something.
Yeah, so when she turned it on, the man disappeared. Which, okay, she was like, maybe he ducked into one of the hallways or bedrooms or rooms. And so she goes and investigates. And as she turns the corner, she saw a dog lying on the floor looking up at her. The owner tried to call it over so it wouldn't get lost in the building, but then it just disappeared before her eyes. So that's how she made the connection of who it was she saw initially. It was a homeless guy.
Well, if anything good came out of the story, maybe she learned a valuable lesson to keep your flashlight on.
Keep your flashlight on, lady. Also, it was rumored, I didn't write this down, but some people believe, or the way the story goes, it was very suspicious the way the guy died, and they think that maybe he was pushed off, so we don't know really. Yeah. There is also a little boy named Timmy seen hanging around there. He's often seen playing with a blue bouncing ball. So because of this, it's common for investigators to bring... Do you remember it? Okay.
Okay, keep going. This is awesome.
Yeah. So investigators often come and do bring a ball or a bouncy ball of some sort to kind of entice the child to come out and play. The scene with Ryan and Shane was amazing. And I don't know what you remember, but there was a point where obviously Ryan did bring a bouncy ball and he throws it into the hallway and it bounces into the darkness. So you can hear it in the audio that the ball is bouncing and then finally it settles down. But then you kind of hear it bounce again, like 2 more times. So it'll like pause and bounce. So this is very strange.
So it either just started rolling and then fell down like a slight drop to bounce, or you got a little ghost kid playing with it.
You got a little ghost kid. Yeah, so that was my actual like thought too. It was like maybe it found like 2 steps and then it kind of bounced down or whatever. However, as they were waiting for it to return, just to see if the kid would bounce it back, and realized it wasn't going to happen. So they went over to retrieve it. And on their way there, they noticed that it kind of wandered into a hallway that was to their left. And when they flashed their lights on the wall, they saw the name Ryan graffitied on the wall. So that's kind of a weird coincidence, right? Because like his name is Ryan.
It's not that it's a super uncommon name, but usually when people do graffiti, they don't say like Ryan. They put like L Cool 16 was here, or gang signs and stuff.
Well, a lot of people might want to put their name if they're just dumb.
Well, there are people who are just like Ryan.
Ryan. My name is Ryan. Ryan was here.
But then when Ryan was here, they're just like Ryan.
Well, Ryan's name was graffitied on the wall, and I thought that was pretty cool. So once Ryan was done freaking out, he decided to throw it again and, the same exact spot they were standing before, and throw the ball. And this time it stopped bouncing. They went immediately to retrieve it, and they found it perfectly centered in the middle of the hallway, which is another weird thing to kind of happen. Not
True.
like impossible, obviously.
Yeah,
but
chances are if you threw a bouncy ball down a hallway 100 times, it might not end up in the center even once.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm just saying, like, what happened and the behavior of the ball.
Perfect creepiness.
Very perfect creepy.
I love how of these two guys. So, by the way, if you guys aren't aware, what we're talking about, a show called Unsolved Supernatural.
Yeah.
Which I hate saying BuzzFeed for it because I hate BuzzFeed as a website, but this web video series is really good, and it's hosted by 2 guys, Ryan and Shane. Ryan is a believer, and he's a scaredy cat, and he's also very lovable. He's a great guy.
Yeah.
Or he, as far as I can tell by watching videos, but he's the scaredy cat, and Shane like doesn't believe in anything.
Like, he's legit, every time he goes to these things, he's like, all I feel like I'm doing is sitting in a dark room. Like, he zero belief in this man, and that's pretty impressive, because sometimes people say they're non-believers, but they're scared. He's a true non-believer.
And so I think it's funny that the name that was written was Ryan of the scaredy cat. Because I'm pretty sure if it was Shane, he would have just walked in there. He's like, damn, another Shane. And he would have written in spray paint below Shane
He probably would have been like, another Shane was here or something. Yeah. So I thought that was a pretty cool little thing that they did. So in that same floor, on the 3rd floor, there's also a little girl seen playing around in the hallways. Except this child has been described as having no eyes, and when she realizes that you're staring at her, she will run towards you and go through you.
Oh.
That's nice. Nice welcome.
Yeah, she's respecting those personal bubbles pretty well.
Yeah, So let's move on to the 4th floor. There's a man dressed as a doctor seen walking around in the hallway and then enter into one of the treatment rooms. People believe that this ghost was a doctor named Joseph, who, while working at the sanatorium, he contracted TB. He then went under surgery so that they could inflate his lungs, which was another procedure they did. But he died during the operation, or whatever it was that they were doing. And one paranormal investigator said that he saw a man in a white coat, so assuming it's the same person,
sure,
for a few seconds, and right before he entered the room. When he went in to go follow him, he then heard a loud growl. The investigator then started to run away, and as he was making his way down the hall, he saw something fly across the room, like fly really close to his head in front of him. Like someone was trying to throw something at him, basically. Okay. And when he approached it, he saw that it was a brick. I was like, damn, that's messed up. So he looked behind him and he didn't see anyone there, and he didn't hear anything else. So, if someone threw something, you would think you would hear footsteps or running
anything.
Or something,
I mean, because if you look at the way that the sanitarium is in disrepair, like there's
dust, there's just crap
there's
everywhere.
Gravel, there's broken stuff everywhere. I mean, even the greatest ninjas in the world couldn't get out unless they were turtles.
Exactly.
Just so you know.
Oh, maybe it was a Ninja Turtle. Maybe it was Raphael. He was a jerk.
They wouldn't throw bricks though.
No.
They live by a code.
And if he did, he wouldn't have missed.
Yeah, don't talk trash.
I'm sorry. So yeah, that happened to him. So on the same floor, there's this room called the nurse's waiting room. And the current owner and her friend were taking pictures. And at one point, the friend saw a full-bodied apparition standing in the room. Mm-hmm. She managed to take a picture of it. This was on the Unsolved show because the guys were talking to her. And the owner showed the guys the picture. The problem was that the picture on her phone was a picture of the picture. So she took so it came out kind of blurry, and like even Shane was like, and Ryan's like, oh my God, like obviously he ate it up, but Shane was like, and then Ryan's like, what do you think of this? And then it was pretty funny because Shane's like, well, and then it cuts. I just wanted to know what he said.
Well, so here's my thoughts. I think if you don't have a good picture to show, don't show it. Yeah. But at the same time, now that I say that, one day I'm going to be somewhere that's like haunted. I'm going to see a ghost and I'm going to take a picture. And because I'm so terrified, I'm going to take the worst damn picture ever. And then I'm going to be like, oh no, I'm one of them.
You're one of them.
Yeah.
I know. It happens, Anne. You never know. So in room 418, there were two patients staying there, Jane and Elizabeth, who were also best friends. As their condition worsened, though, they both made a pact that whichever one died first, they would make contact. So the remaining friend would also do what they can to summon their friend. So they kind of were like, if you die, like, come visit me, kind of thing. So whatever they did worked.
Oh, God.
Because I guess, like, there's a lot of activity there. And people have claimed to have seen a woman chained to the bed, screaming and bleeding from the mouth. In a weird way, this kind of, I don't know what it was they were doing, might have condemned them into the room. Or maybe they're just having fun scaring people. I don't know. Okay, there's theories here.
Okay, when I was a kid, if, like, there were other kid ghosts around, we'd get, like, a Ouija board and, I'd ask, like, guess what? And the ghost would reply, chicken butt. What's up with this, like, oh, we're going to terrify people with, like, blood spewing.
I never said they were children.
Oh, I thought they were two little girls.
No, they were best friends. So when I read it, it never said they were kids.
Wow, that shows how
I guess
jaded
like when
I am in life. When you tell me about two girls who are best friends, my immediacy is that they're kids. Even though obviously adult women can be best friends, I didn't
even say girl. I just said Jane and Elizabeth. So I think you're right. Like I think when using the term best friend, you kind of think
little girls,
kids. Like they're like, oh, it's my best friend. But when you're older, you're like, I have friends, and some are like older and some are newer, and I have different bonds with everyone. Yeah, I don't know. So you're more like a robot. I don't know.
This is my best friend. It's called Netflix.
It's called rum and cranberry juice. So on the 5th floor, patients were taken there. This is where patients were taken there when they had the tuberculosis spread to the brain. Mm-hmm. In case anyone is curious, like I was, when TB reaches the brain, it can cause headaches, irritability, confusion, stiffness, fever, and when it gets really bad, it could lead into a coma. So anyway, I don't know why, but I read all about it, and so you have to know too.
Okay.
In room 502, 2 people have committed suicide there. In 1928, a nurse by the name of Mary Hillenberg hanged herself just inside room 502. Or at least that's what the hospital wants you to think, because it's believed that Mary had an affair with one of the doctors and ended up getting pregnant. Yeah. The doctor insisted that she get an abortion, of course, because he didn't want anyone to know. And eventually the nurse agreed, but during the procedure, there were some complications and Mary ended up dying. Still trying to cover up the affair and now possibly murder, the doctor staged Mary's death as a suicide by hanging her body in front of the room. So that's pretty messed up.
So I mean, she died from complications from a surgery that should not be lethal. So
I think, like,
he's just a really crappy doctor.
I mean,
and crappy person,
this
too.
This wasn't his, like, area of expertise, probably. I don't know.
Get this guy an anatomy book. Holy crap.
And then throw it at his head. In 1932, a nurse jumped from a nearby patio that was just above room 502, but it was also speculated that she was pushed off, so now we have another possible murder on our hands. The owner of the building said that she had people stay on the 5th floor in their tents for security purposes. I don't know what that means. That's how she said it.
In their tents?
Like in a tent. So, yeah. And
I wonder
all night...
if they had, like, little enclosures around their beds or something.
So it was just a tent. So no, because, like, if you look at the pictures of the facility, and even now, because obviously the last thing, what it was built for was for tuberculosis, it's very open. Because the idea was it needed...
fresh air.
Yeah, so it has, like, giant... gaping, like, window, what would have maybe put a window, but maybe there was never a window kind of thing. And so the whole point is that it was always basically exposed. So my point is they would be in a tent, and they likely would never have been in, like, a closed off area, especially in room 502. Yeah, or on the 5th floor. But anyway, so when she said that they would stay there, apparently the security people would hear children giggling, and things would be thrown at their tents all night long. So they would be woken up constantly by these things. That's a no for me.
It's unsettling as heck, because you're in a middle hospital. What are kids doing there?
Right. There's no in the middle of the night. No way. Apparently, one of the nurses that was working on the floor was stabbed multiple times by a patient. So I thought I'd throw that in there because, like any other town, I guess there really was just murder and everything else that you could possibly, like, think of. So these things actually did happen on the property as well. Now, here are just some other common hauntings that kind of occur all over the place, you know what I mean? So people, of course, hear doors slamming on their own, loud banging sounds, and some people said that when they're standing outside, they can see lights turn on and off in different rooms, even though there wouldn't be any functioning fixtures. People would hear children's laughter, loud and painful screaming, which I don't know which one's scarier. Which one do you think you would be scared more?
What, loud screaming or painful screaming?
No, like screaming or children giggling. Like
at night?
At night, like when no one should be around.
Even though it is creepy that children be giggling, I think I'm more terrified of screaming and pain, because screaming and pain means something is actually hurting. Kids, I could always say, well, maybe it's just a bunch of brats doing a prank. And
even if it was children giggling, I guess it can be like, well, they're not threatening, where a scream sounds like, should I run?
Painful scream is hard to fake.
Yeah.
Everyone can scream, but a painful scream where it sounds like someone's being tortured, that's a really hard thing to fake.
That's a committed scream. Yeah.
So that one.
I agree. I think I agree. Sometimes people see faces peering through a window that leads into another room. And of course, when they go investigate, no one's in there. For me, this one really gets me because I think I actually have a deep fear of seeing a ghost that's staring back at me. Because...
it witnesses you?
Right, because like I'm not saying like I wouldn't be afraid of a ghost minding its own business. Like if I saw one walking around and didn't notice me.
In its natural habitat.
I think I'd be like, okay, well that's fucking scary. But I don't know, like staring back at... Because if they disappear, they still know where I am. And I have no idea where they are. I don't know. It scares the shit out of me.
Well, and I think we're used to seeing ghosts that are kind of just like doing their own thing. Sometimes they might be reliving life experiences or doing that. When it's just sitting there staring at you, it's kind of like it is very aware of me and it's acknowledging me.
Yeah.
Which is kind of out of the norm for what we see. Usually when ghost hunters go, they're not expecting a ghost to just like stare at them.
Right. And that's, no.
And staring in general is creepy.
Yeah, I hate it when normal people do it.
You don't have to be dead for staring to be unsettling.
That's actually very true. I guess everyone would be scared. So ghosts have also appeared in photos, like we said, but it's very, like, it's aggressive about it, I guess. And you can actually look them up online. Sometimes they're a human figure, but sometimes they kind of look like white mass or black mass, and of course your orbs.
Oh. I even think in the episode that you watched during your research, there had to have been at least one orb.
You mean? Oh, yeah. I mean, there were orbs popping up here, left and right, for sure.
So, I mean, every time I just see something really dusty, my first thought is, oh, look at all these orbs that someone is going to think is a ghost if we filmed this.
Yeah. Wait, or like dust in a place that's open to the outside? No.
What are the odds?
What? Okay, so another common occurrence is seeing shadow people all over the building. There was a video that I saw where a camera was set up facing a hallway, and at some point you see a black figure just kind of pass by it. It's not like a distance shot, so it's like right in front of the camera.
It's just a shadow cast that moves across?
No, it's like a black mass. It's pretty creepy. People have claimed to have seen a hearse approach the back of the building and drop off coffins. Even after the hearse left, they could still see the coffins laying there. And after a few seconds,
that's so fucked up.
Yeah, it starts to fade away. So it's just like this whole like residual haunting thing that, like a repetition. Yeah, that sucks. So from what I understand, the reason why it would drop it off there, I guess it's where the body chute is. So,
okay, so yeah.
They would like, yeah, I guess.
The body slide.
The body slide. Good God. So people have said they could smell fresh baked bread when they were inside the kitchen.
That's a nice haunting.
That's a nice
thing.
one. I'm like, finally, something nice.
Yeah, if I ever had to have one haunting, smelling baked bread is not far off from one I'd probably pick.
Yeah, I was like, who's making pie? Like, hell yeah.
People come over and say, why does it smell like pie? Oh, that's how my house is haunted. It just always smells like fresh pie.
It's my grandma ghost. I don't know. She keeps making pie.
And sometimes I feel like my cheeks get really, really pinched.
Yeah. It's nice because they're rosy. I don't know. People also feel cold spots, of course. Balls of light have also been spotted attacking people. Now, my guess is that this is a larger and brighter orb than your average orbs. So this is mega orbs that tend to attack people.
Mega orbs. Dust bunnies, if you will.
Dust bunny orbs. Ghosts will sometimes follow you and would occasionally peek through corners or crouch behind furniture or like other things that are in the building and peek out. That one sucks too. Investigators have gotten full body readings of from their thermal detectors. There's a maintenance man who worked at the hospital back when it was open, who apparently died there too. Since then, people would hear keychains rattling like someone is walking with them down the hallway. So this kind of happens all over the building too.
Man, that's weird how many people, I know it's a hospital, so people are going to die.
Right.
But how many people who weren't patients that die in a place, damn.
You don't know if this guy maybe died. He might have gotten TB at some point.
Well, that's true.
Yeah. So I don't know. Or maybe it's something, you're right, like sometimes ghosts revisit areas that they spent their life in.
Poor guy. I mean, that's a hard job. And
yeah.
Can you imagine if you die and you're like, oh, my ghost is going to live forever on this plane doing the job I hated my whole life.
And carrying all these goddamn keys. Yeah, that sucks.
I mean, when I think back to all the jobs I had more than a few I hated. I can't imagine how awful it would be if I died and I just went back to relive that job for all of eternity.
Which job would be the worst for you? Dishwasher?
Woof.
I remember you were a dishwasher at some point.
Yeah, I
like a wedding venue.
Yeah, I was a dishwasher it was just a summer, and yeah, that's the worst job I ever had. Like, I like that I did it so I can be proud and say I did a hard job like that, because I think it proves to new employers that's like, oh, this guy, he's done a lot. He's had desk jobs and he's done that. Like, he's done the gamut. He'll do anything, which is cool. But I really will never go back to it if I can help it. So it's kind of a lie on my resume in the sense that it's like, yeah, I did it, but I want it to stay in the past.
But I would rather kill you. Yeah. I think
dishwashing goes for all of eternity.
I think mine would be when I worked with kids for the before and after school program. That would be my nightmare. Like, just taking care of children all day long.
There are so many people out there who would love that job.
Oh, and there are people who are like, that sounds amazing.
It just wasn't a fit for you.
Well, no, and I was genuinely bad at it too. Like, I I never put that on my resume because when they asked me about it, like, it was really hard for me to lie. And I was like, I sucked. Like, I remember when I worked there and I would be some of the people, like, I'd be there already, like, working there for a year, and people that worked there less were promoted because I just sucked at it. Like, I did not care.
I can say as your husband of coming up on 8 years.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I believe you.
What? Terrible at babysitting? I don't understand. Hey, my niece thinks I do a good job. Granted, she's a teenager, so I think it's a lot easier at that point.
It's because we're cool teenagers.
Yeah. Yeah, we're so cool.
I'm like the coolest kid. I wear all the latest fashions.
Yeah. That red shirt looks good on you. Okay, I don't know where I am.
It does look good.
So, people also caught things on EVP sessions, which is a very, like... It's something that happens so often. It's like if you bring a recorder or something, to take EVP, you will get something. And these are some of the things that captured. So I actually listened to videos of people doing the whole thing and
Sure.
whatnot. So what they caught is Let Me Out, Sarah, Loss of Innocence, Are You Scared? Now, there was at one point a man singing, so they left an EVP recorder recording on its own in one of the hallways, and they caught a man singing for a few seconds, but you couldn't really tell what he was saying. That one scared me. A little child saying, uh-huh, after asking if they wanted them to leave. The kid's like, yeah, bitch, get the fuck away from me. So another one is, don't go in there. No witness. Yikes. And one investigative group went into the shock therapy room and asked who was in here, and the response was Lily Walker. The team was able to find records of a Lillian Ruth Walker who did die at Waverly Hills in 1938. So that one's pretty cool.
All right, so...
Oh, and then there's one more.
Okay.
That one is sweet. I didn't know what to do with that one, so...
Totally checking out one of their butts.
Yeah.
That one's sweet.
Oh, sweet ass, bro.
So I've... Yo, bro, just want you to know, got a sweet ass. I've heard a lot of EVP recordings, and I think most of them, they're really up for interpretation. If you even acknowledge that it's a voice... And it's hard because I actually hate how TV shows, they subtitle it and it's already influencing you. I want to hear it a few times first without them telling me to come up with my own, because sometimes people say, oh, they totally said, like, let's just say get out. Say get out. But then if I hear it without the subtitles, I'm like, yeah, I'm not hearing get out.
So I would say the ones that I'm like telling you are the ones that for me was like clear as day.
Okay, so you believed it.
Yeah, the only one that I couldn't understand was a guy singing, but I could clearly hear a guy singing, so I include, you know what I'm saying? So the other ones I was like,
you should probably play some of these for me later.
Ooh, I'll play them for you.
But not right before I go to bed, because I'm a sensitive soul.
You're sensitive. I agree. We'll do that tomorrow morning in the broad daylight.
You got to give me like a stuffed animal, some jammies, and some hot chocolate, and then you can play the creepy stuff.
Yeah, I'll cuddle you up in a blanket. So here are some Tripadvisor reports that I was able to get.
Oh, Tripadvisor.
Tripadvisor. So this one comes from Karen E. And she left this review in 2019 in July. And I'm just paraphrasing here, of course. She said, "This is my second time taking an overnight tour. My first time was with 10 of us, rented out the whole place for a night, which was $1,000.
Whoa.
Yeah, woof. It ran from 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. We really didn't get anything until our guide came with us between 3 to 4 a.m. Then his flashlight would come on for a yes answer, so they did the whole flashlight questioning thing. And they did this on the 5th floor. On the 2nd floor, we saw the curtains closing from the top slowly come back down. We left a ball for the ghost kid on the 3rd floor in one room. We drew a chalk around the ball to check if it had moved throughout the night. After getting no results all night, we then did come back one last time to check on it and realize that the ball was outside the circle." So, yeah, that was pretty cool. 5 out of 5, of course.
Totally believe it's haunted.
Yeah. So this one comes from David O. He left this on May 2018. On this spring evening, we did the late paranormal tour. Our guide was in the darkness. I don't get that one. Oh, our guided tour was in the darkness. I thought you said the guide was in the dark. Anyway, the highlight was the 4th floor where shadow figures were seen. As a scientist, sorry, I don't know why. I was a bit skeptical, but sure enough, when a person walked down a hall lit only by ambient moonlight, he was quickly joined by not 1, but 3 shadowy figures. So I guess he meant like one of the people with him. So,
sure.
Yeah. So it definitely wasn't his own shadow because it cast 3. Anyway, this was confirmed by multiple people in the group without coercion from the guide. We toured the surgical site where I felt quite uneasy and nauseous here. The morgue and death chute were very eerie. I left feeling I encountered a presence. 5 out of 5. This one is from Open Your Mind. We did a 2-hour tour at 9:30 p.m. They started late but made up for it. On the 4th floor, my husband and I saw a dark figure run from one door across the hall into another door. My husband doesn't get into all the ghost stuff, and he came to make me happy, but he was floored when he saw that. He also saw lights or whatever he took a picture of. She literally spelled whatever. I love that.
Whatevs.
And we were not sure what it was. 5 out of 5. This one comes from Curtis H. He did the 7:30 p.m. tour, and he says, we did the tour with our young teenagers. We had several paranormal experiences, from flashlights turning on by itself, pulling on an ear, and goosebumps all over my arms and legs. As we moved up to the 2nd floor, I had the feeling that we were being watched. The event kicked up to a new level after darkness fell, and we went to the 4th floor. We had a ton of shadowy activity. I volunteered to get up the hall by myself. I had several experiences of goosebumps, and the group said they saw shadows near me. The highlight was a 6-foot-tall shadow man come out of the doorway and stand about 2 feet in front of me. I would do this tour again and again. 5 out of 5. Jesus.
So it seems like all these reviews seem to see the shadow figures.
That's the big thing.
My thoughts are maybe it's just a hallway that's really shadowy,
but like, these are kind of moving and they're human-like.
Sure,
so I think that's kind of the difference, you know?
But I'm also taking this off of a review written to Tripadvisor as opposed to, someone who uses the scientific method. Even the scientific guy didn't even talk about experiments or testing or repetition or anything.
I have 2 more. They're pretty short, but here we go. This one's from CTA Wilson. Wasn't sure who was on the tour, people in the flesh or the ghost. One tall drink of water was confident and told his girlfriend he would protect her until a little girl pulled on his jeans and he jumped straight up. They left the tour. I saw shadows on both tours and felt people around us. Funny thing about the Waverly, I have the sense that spirits are there because they are comfortable and care for the site. Many of the sites are colored with sorrow, horror, and pain, but that's not what I sensed at the Waverly. So it's interesting. He has a different perspective. Or she, I don't know who this is. The 4th floor and the shadow people are creepy. Pay attention to movements and blink often. 5 out of 5. Now, the last one is Wild Travelers. I've wanted to visit this place for years. It did not disappoint. We did the midnight to 4 a.m. tour. Heard footsteps. So
4-hour tour.
So they did a long one. Heard footsteps when no one was around. Saw shadows. Heard music playing. We will be returning to do this Sunday tour all day long. And so they also gave it 5 out of 5. So it just seems like it's and this is just some. I kept running into a million of them, people saying footsteps and shadows and all these other things. So it's such an active area. It's so easy for these places. And you know what I'm saying? Like, it's a lot.
No, absolutely.
There is a movie, by the way, called Death Tunnel. And on IMDb, they rated it 2.7 out of 10.
Well, the title alone is probably why it got that high a rating.
Death Tunnel. Yeah. Maybe we can watch it anyway on one sad night.
So, would you ever go there?
Yes.
During the night?
Yes.
Would you spend the night?
Well, not alone, but yes. And I would have to I don't like going camping as it is, like overnight camping. So I'm like, now I have to sleep on concrete. Yeah, that's kind of...
In a tent, like you have TV.
I'm just going to bring a TV. Or I guess my laptop.
I said, like you have TB.
Oh, TB. I said a TV. I'm like, okay. I don't think they have anywhere to plug my...
I like how that's what you're worried about instead of being like, well, why would I go to a haunted place and watch TV? I could do that anywhere.
Yeah.
I don't want to go.
I know. I figured as much.
I go during the day, but it sounds to the point where at night I think I'm good.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what the likeliness of us going to Kentucky is, but maybe one day we'll make it out there, and then I'll find a group of people who would want to go with me. I don't know.
I'll go during the day.
Yeah.
Maybe sunset-ish.
They do day tours as well. Like, they do historical tours, so maybe that could be your jam, you know?
I'll still bring a bouncy ball.
And then I'll have my recorder for EVP sessions when no one's looking. So,
so damn, like, it shows how much I remember from the original story, because when you're telling me stuff like about the bouncing ball and the body slide, I was like, all right, this really was a terrifying sounding place because I remembered it.
And I have seen videos of it, like, or rather TV shows cover it, like Ghost Hunters and Ghost Adventures and everything in the past. I haven't seen it in years, though. So, it's been a while since
it's been years.
Yeah.
And it still sticks there, so... Awesome story.
Yay, thank you. It took a long time. It was a lot of information. I took a lot of detours in my research because TB apparently is a very, very fascinating disease. And also I needed to stop watching so many YouTube videos of people just messing around.
And I think it's definitely more interesting than any Disney show could be. So yeah. I like your version more.
Yeah, less wizards, more orbs, for sure.
So I think that brings our episode to a close. I didn't have a story today. Well, I mean, I had one, but I put it on the back burner because yours was a burly one. Mine will come next week. Don't worry. I have a really spicy good one. I'm pretty excited about it, so it's already ready to go. Thank you guys for joining us. If you have any comments, questions, or personal scary stories you want to share with us, please drop us a line at hotwpodcast@gmail.com. We post episodes every weekend, and... cheers if you were drinking along with us, and we hope you continue in a safe manner, obviously. And for those of you listening to us because you had too much fun last night, don't worry, because the best cure for a hangover
is fear.
Bye.
See ya.